Hello everyone, this is Joanne and welcome. In this episode, I am back with another fun bag making project and we're gonna make this really cute tote bag. This bag has lots of pockets. It has a zipper pocket at the front, two side pockets, a slip pockets at the back, and inside there is a zip pocket divider, four slip pockets with magnetic snap closure, so it is really functional. You can dress it up or dress it down. I also like the size. It's not too big or too small either. All in all, a very nice looking and stylish bag. The finished measurement of this bag is approximately 12.5 inches wide at the widest point and 10 inches tall. For the fabric, you're gonna need 3 fat quarters, and of course you can also use yardage. The line of fabric that I use here, in case you're wondering, is from Maywood Studio. It is called the Burgundy and Blush. For the interfacing, I used the fusible fleece for the front and back panel, while for the side panels and the bottom panel, I used the soft and stable or the foam stabilizer. And I really like this combination because the use of the foam stabilizer for the side panels and the bottom panel really add a lot of structure to this bag and makes it look much more polished. Obviously, you can use all fleece as well or all foam stabilizer or whichever kind of interfacing that you prefer. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and without further ado, let's get started. Prepare 3 fat quarters or 3 different fabrics for the exterior shell. First, we're gonna work on the front zipper pocket. So from fabric 1, you're going to cut 2 rectangle pieces, one for the lower panel and one for the upper panel. You should be able to see the measurements on the screen right now, and you will need to interface both pieces with the fusible woven interfacing. Now prepare your zipper. So the length of your zipper should be at least 7 inches long. Mine is a lot longer than what I needed here, so I'm going to trim this off. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to close the zipper teeth. This way it's not sticking out and it's much easier to work with. So I simply run a couple of whip stitches to close the zipper teeth. Then I'm going to go ahead and align the zipper with the pocket panels and then trim off the excess zipper. Prepare a couple of rectangle pieces for the zipper tabs. They should measure at least 3 inches long and 1 inch wide. And even if you cut them a slight bigger, it's fine. You can always trim them later. You will also need to interface both of them with the fusible woven interfacing. Fold the zipper tab in half, just like that. Position that at the end of your zipper, about 3/4 of an inch away from the edge. And then you can stick a pin there to keep it in place. And you want to do the same with the other side. And then go ahead and sew along the folded edges with 1/8 of an inch of seam allowance. I simply move my needle all the way to the left and then use the edges of my presser foot as the gauge. Alright, now I'm gonna go ahead and trim off all the excess fabric of my zipper tabs. I simply align the zipper with the pocket panel, center the position, and then trim off the excess fabrics. Alright, so here I've got my zipper ready to go. Now take the top pocket panel and then you want to lay that right side down. Align the edges with the edges of the zipper. If your fabric has directional print, you will need to align the lower edges of your top panel with the top edges of the zipper. Then you want to secure this in place with some sewing clips, and then with your zipper foot, go ahead and sew with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Now open it up and then press the folded seams. I use my Hera marker here. You can also use iron on low setting. And then go ahead and top stitch along the edges. I'm still using my zipper foot here. I simply align the edges of the zipper foot with the folded edge of my fabric. So find some kind of sweet spot with your presser foot to visually gauge your seams so you will have an even stitching line. Now take your lower pocket piece, lay that right side up, and then take your zipper, lay that right side down, aligning the edges with the pocket piece. Now take the lower pocket lining piece. Obviously this should be cut exactly the same size as your lower pocket panel. Lay the lining right side down. Secure everything with your sewing clips and then sew with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Open the sandwich, press the seams, and don't forget to press the seams of the lining as well. And then go ahead and top stitch along the edges. Alright, so you should end up with something like this. Now the measurements of this panel should be 7 inches wide by 11.5 inch long. So make sure that yours turn out exactly the same size. Now take the second lining piece. Obviously this should be cut exactly the same size as this whole zipper panel piece. So you want to lay the lining right side up and then the pocket piece wrong side down. So the right side of your lining should be touching the wrong side of your pocket piece. And then go ahead and sew all around the edges with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. And once you've done that, you should end up with something like this. Cut 2 strips from fabric 2 for the front side panels, and you'll need to fuse both of them with the fusible woven interfacing. Position each panel on each side of the pocket piece. Lay the side panel on the right side of the pocket piece and then secure them in place with some sewing clips. And you want to do the same with the other side as well. And once you've done that, go ahead and sew with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. And then press towards the side panels. Be mindful with your zipper. Make sure that your iron won't accidentally touch the zipper teeth. Alright, so the front panel should turn out like this. So this front panel should measure 11 inches wide by 11.5 inch long. Now fuse the front panel piece with the fusible fleece or the thermalum. So lay the wrong side of your fabric on the glue side of the fusible thermalum, and then go ahead and fuse that according to the manufacturer's instruction. Again, you want to be mindful with your zipper. I recommend using a pressing cloth just in case. Now as you can see here, I forgot to cut my fusible fleece smaller because we want to reduce the bulk at the top and the bottom. So what I'll do, I will peel the fusible fleece, not all the way, just around the top. And then I'm going to take my scissors and trim 1/2 inch off. So I'm just going to eyeball this. And I will do the same with the bottom part as well. Alright, so this is how it should turn out on the wrong side. Alright, next you can go ahead and top stitch along the side panels. I went ahead and decided to actually do a little bit of quilting, so I ran a few straight stitches on both side panels just to add extra texture to the bag. Now let's work on the back exterior piece. So cut a rectangle from fabric 3 for the top panel, and then cut a rectangle from your lining piece for the lower panel, and then go ahead and sew them together with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Alright, once you've done sewing, go ahead and press the seams, and then go ahead and apply the interfacing. First you want to apply the fusible woven interfacing, and then followed with the fusible fleece. And of course you will need to cut the fusible fleece 1 inch shorter and then place that right on the center, so you will have 1/2 inch gap on both the top and the bottom as well. Now let's work on the back exterior pocket. So cut a piece of rectangle from fabric 1 and also 1 piece from the lining, and you want to fuse your pocket piece with the fusible woven interfacing. Now lay the pocket piece and the lining right side together, then go ahead and sew with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Now open it up and then press the seams open. Once you've done that, fold them wrong side together, just like that. Then you want to press the edges, make it nice and neat, and then go ahead and top stitch. Alright, once your back pocket is ready to go, go ahead and lay this on the right side of your back exterior piece, aligning the bottom of the pocket with the bottom of the exterior piece. Then sew along the sides and the bottom with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Now we're gonna work on the side gussets. So cut 2 rectangles from fabric 2, and then you're gonna interface this with the soft and stable or the foam stabilizer first, that you cut 1/2 inch smaller all around with the fusible woven interfacing. So I'll show you how to do it. Lay the soft and stable on the wrong side of your side gusset piece. Center the position just like that. Then take the fusible woven interfacing that you cut exactly the same size as the side gusset piece, and then lay that on top of the foam stabilizer, glue side down, and then go ahead and fuse the fusible woven interfacing. When you fuse the fusible woven interfacing, you want to concentrate in fusing all the sides to make sure that the foam stabilizer will be sealed nicely and securely in place. Now we're gonna work on the side pockets. So you will need to cut 2 from fabric 3 and 2 from the lining. And they should measure 8 inches long and 7 inches wide. Take one pocket piece and lay that straight on the cutting mat just like that. Now take your ruler and lay that on an angle just like that. Measure 1 inch from the edge of the bottom of your pocket piece. Then place your ruler on that angle and then cut. Alright, now do the same with the other side. So place your ruler on an angle 1 inch away from the bottom edge and cut. So you should end up with something like this. So the top of your pocket piece should remain 7 inches wide and the bottom of your pocket piece should be 5 inches wide. Now go ahead and do the same with the other pocket piece and the lining as well. Lay the pocket piece with the lining right side together and then sew the top with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Once you've done sewing, go ahead and press the seams open and then fold this wrong side together just like that, and then go ahead and press along the edges. Next we're going to create the elastic casing. So sew along the top with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. Now cut a 7 inch long elastic. You can use either 1/4 inch wide or 3/8 of an inch wide elastic. Mine is 1/4 inch wide here. Now I'm going to attach the edge of my elastic with a small safety pin and then thread the elastic into the casing. Use your safety pin to guide you to thread the elastic. Now I'm going to place a sewing clip at the other end of the elastic. This way I won't lose it inside the casing. Now I'm going to continue threading my elastic until I get to the other end of the casing. Alright, now I'm going to remove the safety pin and then use a sewing clip to secure the elastic with the fabric. And I want to do the same with the other end. Then you want to distribute the gather evenly. Then go ahead and sew along the edges of the casing to secure the elastic in place. Remove your sewing clip and make sure you hold on to your elastic. Make sure you won't lose it. And then carefully place your fabric underneath the presser foot. And then run a couple of stitches along the edges with about 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Now lay your pocket piece on top of the side gusset just like that, aligning the bottom of the pocket with the bottom of the gusset. Secure them in place with some sewing clips. You may need to scooch the fabric from the sides a little bit in order to align the edges. Once everything is secured, go ahead and stitch along the sides and the bottom with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Alright, here I've got my side pocket ready to go. Now go ahead and do the same with the other side. For the bottom gusset, you'll need to cut a rectangle from fabric 3, and then you're going to interface this exactly the same way as you did the side gusset. So you want to place the soft and stable first and then top it with the fusible woven interfacing and then fuse them in place. Now that all of our exterior pieces are ready to go, it's time to assemble them. So we're going to start by attaching the front panel with one of the side gusset. So lay them right side together just like that. and then secure them in place with some sewing clips and sew with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. Alright, now go ahead and sew the other one. Now take your back exterior panel and you're going to sew both sides to the side gusset. So I'm going to start from my right hand side here. Secure them in place with some sewing clips and then sew with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. Now sew the other side of the back panel with the other side of the gusset. Alright, so you should end up with something like this. Now it's time to attach the bottom gusset. So you want to turn the piece to the wrong side. Place the gusset at the bottom, match the seams one side at a time, and then secure them in place with your sewing clips. And once everything is secured, go ahead and sew all around with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. So I found it easiest when you sew one side at a time. So I started from the longer side. Start sewing 1/2 inch down from the seam allowance, then go all the way down, stop where the seam allowance is, back stitch, remove your fabric, and then go ahead and sew the other side. Alright, once you've done sewing, you can go ahead and turn your exterior piece inside out. Poke the corners, make it nice and flat, and voila, the exterior is done. Now we're gonna work on a pocket divider. So cut 4 pieces from your lining fabric. I recommend to cut your inner facing 1/2 inch smaller all around to reduce the bulk. I got away fine with it, my machine can handle it, but it was very bulky. Now prepare your zipper. The length of the zipper should be at least 11 inches long, or the same as the width of your pocket piece. Then you want to cut 2 small rectangles for the zipper tabs, and you want to apply them pretty much the same way as we did the front zipper pocket. But this time I went a little further, so I measure 1 inch from the end of the zipper and then pin them in place, and then go ahead and stitch along the folded edges. Alright, here I've already attached both zipper tabs and I have already trimmed all the excess fabric. Now trim off the excess zipper, the one underneath the zipper tab. So you want to cut this off about 1/4 inch away from the stitch line, just like that, because we want to minimize the bulk when sewing the sides later. Lay your pocket piece right side up and then lay the zipper right side down, just like that. And then you want to take another pocket piece and lay that right side down. So we are making a zipper sandwich here. Now go ahead and secure everything with some sewing clips and then stitch along the edges with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Now open up the sandwich, find the zipper, and then press the seams. You can either use hero marker like I do, or you can use iron on low setting. Once you've done that, go ahead and top stitch along the edges. Alright, now lay the third pocket piece right side up and then lay your zipper right side down, just like that. And then take the last pocket piece and lay that right side down, aligning all the edges, of course. And then you want to secure this in place with some sewing clips and then sew along the edges with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Once you've done sewing, go ahead and open up the sandwich, press the seams, and then top stitch. Alright, now you can fold this in a half So the zipper should be on top, just like that. And that's it, the pocket divider is ready to go. Now prepare the side gussets. So you'll need to cut 4 pieces, 2 for each side. Now we're gonna make a gusset sandwich. So what you're gonna do, you wanna take 1 gusset strip, lay that right side up, and then take your pocket divider, lay that on top of the gusset. You wanna align the bottom and the side edges, just like shown here. And then take the second gusset strip, and then you want to lay that right side down. Now go ahead and secure everything with some sewing clips, and then go ahead and sew with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. Now you want to start sewing from the bottom, and I highly recommend you use your walking foot. This will make your life much easier since you're sewing through so many layers. Anyway, I always use walking foot whenever I construct my bag. Once you've got to the top of your pocket divider, go ahead and backstitch and sew a couple more times just to reinforce this area, and then go ahead and continue stitching. Alright, so you should end up with something like this. Now go ahead and do the same with the other side. Alright, so this is how the 2 side gussets look like at this point. Now press the gussets towards the side, out of the way from the pocket, just like that. Now let's prepare the bottom gusset. So cut 2 pieces from your lining fabric. Next we're gonna do another gusset sandwich. So lay your pocket divider piece right side up, just like this. And then take one of the gusset piece and then lay that right side down. And you want to center the position of the bottom gusset, aligning the gusset with the bottom of your pocket. And there should be 1/2 inch overlap on each side. Those are the seam allowances. Now I'm going to secure this in place with a couple of sewing clips for now. So I'm going to place my sewing clips right around the seam allowance. Now I'm going to flip this fabric over to the other side. And then I'm going to place the other half of the bottom gusset. Pretty much the same position. Now I'm gonna remove this sewing clip and then reattach it again, this time securing both gussets. Alright, and the other side as well. Now I'm gonna add some more clips to secure everything. And then you wanna go ahead and sew right from one side seams to another side seams. Do not sew through the seam allowance. So I'm going to place my needle right on the side seams, or the seams between the pocket and the gusset. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start sewing, of course with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. And then stop right on the opposite side seams, and then backstitch to secure everything. So this is how your interior fabric should look like so far. Next we're gonna sew these corner edges of the side gusset and the bottom gusset. So you want to meet both edges right side together, so you should be able to match them, just like that. And then go ahead and sew with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. Now I found it much easier to use zipper foot to do this, since as you get to the corner it's gonna get a bit trickier. When you use zipper foot, there will be some room for you to wiggle to get to the corner. Alright, so you should end up with something like this. So you can see the boxy corner forming. Now go ahead and do the same with all other 3 corners. So here I've sewn all 4 corners. Now let's prepare the front and back panel. So these should measure 11 inches wide and 11.5 inches long. And then cut 4 pieces of rectangles for the slip pockets. Take 2 slip pocket pieces, lay them right side together, and then go ahead and sew along the top and the bottom with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Once you've done that, go ahead and press the seams open. Then turn your pocket piece inside out, and then you want to press this again and then top stitch along the upper edge. Lay your pocket piece on the right side of your front lining piece, about 3 inches away from the top. Now draw a line right on the center, so measure 5.5 inch, and then use your fabric marker and draw the line. Pin them in place and then go ahead and sew along the center and the bottom as well. So you should end up with something like this. Don't worry about the sides, it's gonna get stitched anyway with the side seams. Now go ahead and sew the slip pockets for the back lining piece exactly the same way. Now we're gonna attach the magnetic snap closure. From the center of your front panel piece, measure 1.5 inches down and then put a little mark there, and do the same with the wrong side. Fuse the wrong side with a couple of fusible woven interfacing. Take the washer and then align the center hole of the washer with the mark. Then go ahead and trace the two side lines. And then cut both lines with your seam ripper. Just be careful not to overdo it. For the front panel, we're going to attach the male magnetic snap. So go ahead and insert the two prongs over the holes that you created, and then take the washer and then insert the washer over the two prongs, and then use your thumbs to push the prongs to the sides, or you can also use pliers to secure everything. Now go ahead and attach the female magnetic snap closure exactly the same way. Now that we've got the front and back panels ready to go, it's time to attach them to the gussets. So I'm gonna start by attaching the front panel first to whichever side of the gusset that you decided to be the front side, right side together. So you wanna match the sides and the bottom of the front panel with the sides and the bottom of the gusset, and you wanna pin them in place. Once everything is nice and secure, go ahead and sew them together with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. I found it easier if you sew one side at a time, so I started from my right side here. As you approach the bottom, move all the other seams and all the other bulk out of the way, and as I got to the bottom, I stopped sewing, backstitch, and then remove my fabric, and then continue by sewing the bottom side. And you don't have to make all the corners to be perfectly flat, as long as you get it stitched through, because you don't want holes around the corners of your bag. And I actually moved my needle all the way to the left and used the 3/8 of an inch of seam allowance instead to give more room for my presser foot to wiggle. Alright, so you should end up with something like this. Now go ahead and do the same with the back side. Alright, so here is the whole lining piece should look like now. Alright, now let's work on the strap. So I made myself scrappy straps since I wanted to make the most out of my fat quarter fabric, so I extracted some 4-inch strips, enough to make 2 straps. Now that I've done cutting my strips, I'm going to join them on bias, cross the strips right side together, leave about 1/2 inch of tails on both ends. Now take a ruler and fabric marker and then draw a diagonal line from the upper corner to the bottom, just like that. Pin them in place and then stitch on that diagonal line. Now I'm going to trim off the excess fabric and then press the seams open. So here I've sewn enough strips to make 2 straps, and each strap measuring 26 inches long and 4 inches wide. Apply fusible woven interfacing on the wrong side of the strap. The interfacing should be cut only 2 inches wide and the same length, and you wanna of course center the position. Fold the strap in half widthwise and then press. Open the fold and then fold one of the edges towards the center fold and then press. Do the same with the other side. Now fold everything in half and then press. And then go ahead and stitch along the edges with 1/8 of an inch of seam allowance. And here I've got both of my straps ready to go. Now we're gonna do the final assembly. So you wanna have your exterior piece right side out and the lining wrong side out. Now take your exterior piece and then you're going to fold the raw edges in about 1/2 inch and then go ahead and press. So here I've already pressed mine. Now it's okay if the raw edges didn't go all the way in, as long as you got the 1/2 inch crease. Now take the lining and then fold the raw edges towards the wrong side or towards the outside, about 3/4 of an inch, so slightly longer than the exterior, and then go ahead and press. Measure 1 inch from the end of the strap and then mark it with your fabric marker, and you want to do the same with the other end of the strap. Position the strap right on the seams between the pocket and the side panel right there. Center the position just like that. Align the 1 inch mark right there with the edge of the exterior piece just like that, and then secure the strap with a couple of sewing clips for now, and do the same with the other side. For the back side, you want to measure 1.5 inch from the side seams and then place a mark there. Now take your strap and place the end of the strap right on the mark that you just created, just like that. Now go ahead and secure the strap with a couple of sewing clips, and then you want to do the same with the other side. Alright, so once you've secured your straps, you want to do a little bit of test. So match the side seams from the gusset and then make sure that the front and the back straps are sitting in a parallel position or matching. If not, you may need to do a little bit of adjustment. So my straps are sitting perfectly now. Next, you're going to insert the lining into the exterior piece. So you want to make sure that the back side of the lining is facing the back side of the exterior piece. Also, the front side of the lining is facing the front side of the exterior piece. Now go ahead and secure everything with some sewing clips. So you want to match the side seams first and then make your way around it. Now position the edges of the lining just a slight lower than the edges of the exterior. Once everything is nice and secure, go ahead and sew all around with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. So I move my needle all the way to the left and then use the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance gauge instead. This way my walking foot will not get in the way with the magnetic snaps. And of course you don't want to rush this process, so just take it easy and go slow. And that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time with another fun sewing and quilting project. Goodbye!